Hello audience, Astro van enthusiasts, fellow gearheads. January 16th, 2026, it's a Friday, 10:06 a.m. Dennis John Seatsma Productions, Homestead, Florida. We're going to carry on with the 1994 Chevy Astro van project that I've owned since new. The objective of this project is just to make her a runner again. I had to replace the engine. It took a long time for Powertrain Products to find another engine for me because this engine is specific for a few years, and I wanted to go back with the original engine because it always served me well, and I didn't have the extra money for the V8 conversion that everybody likes to do, and I didn't need to do that because this is a farm vehicle now. But my videos are not intended to be instructional. They are entertainment for fellow Astro van enthusiasts, and to see the kind of problems you can run in trying to even do a medium level restoration or low level restoration, because it's getting harder to get parts for this, and we'll talk about that a little bit. But this is just entertainment, not intended to be instructional. Now, as I said in my prior segments, I messed up the head on the passenger side when I used the wrong bolts for the alternator, and the depth of these here, the 3 bolts that hold the alternator bracket on, is less than an inch, and if you get in too long a bolt, it won't hold the bracket. And the bracket snapped off on me the first time I drove it on the street, and of the 3 bolts, I got the lower one out okay, but the top 2 were jammed in there, and I tried using drilling and using an easy out, and I've done that many times before, but I just could not get those bolts out. So I drilled them to the next size bigger, from 3/8 National Cord to 7/16, and unfortunately I went a full inch, and I hit water jacket and hit the went into the oil passage, and I had milky oil. So talking to Powertrain Products, they sent me another head, and there's differences between the early version head, which I have on the driver's side bank, on the left bank, and on the, or right, however you look at this, driver's side versus passenger side. So I've got a newer head, said to be a better head on the passenger side, but there's differences in these studs, because the early version head, and I'll give you the core numbers a little bit later, or put up some pictures in the video, the casting numbers. The early version head had pressed in studs. Now the later version head, and I'll give you the core numbers, had studs that are threaded. I think they're M10-1.50, which is coarse thread on the head side, and on the rocker arm nut side, they have M10-1.0, which is a super fine thread, very difficult to find, almost impossible to find in a rocker arm nut. I think Melling is the only one that makes it, unless I'm mistaken. And correct me, post a comment if I say anything wrong. Like I say, I'm doing the best I can with parts research. I don't mean to be a historian or instructional. This is just entertainment for fellow enthusiasts. And so it turned out I had to order the stud from Melling or Summit Racing or Jegs, the Melling part number, once I discovered it, and a machine shop gave me that part number. Ricky's Speed Shop in Panama City gave me the part number, and then I found out the rocker arms are and nut are different, and the diameter of the rocker arm bearing is different. So I had to research all that and discover it, and by talking to Melling several times, what we discovered was the new head requires these MRK 652 rocker arm kits. The older head takes MRK 651, but when I tried to use it, I found that the nut was an SAE that came with the kit, and this is a metric thread. So after talking longer, turned out ever since day one, when they started this in the 1990s, this nut is an MRM 1720. So I had to order all these parts, and I didn't have them, and that caused significant delay. And you know, I installed this engine over a year ago, and I had it running once, and then I messed up the head. And this is the new head. This core number 14099064 is the new core number for the GM head. That's interchangeable with the prior head, the older head, and you know, plus the original. And I had to buy these from Rock Auto and stuff, but the original head, what was I gonna say? I'm trying to talk about the rocker arm washer or bearing or whatever you want to call it, and it's a beautiful, was cold this morning, but it's warming up nicely. January 16, 2025. Do-it-yourself work is done at your own risk. Death or injury can result. And somewhere here I got in my notes the core number to the new head. You know, let's see if I can find my notes. O'Reilly. And O'Reilly, bless their heart, they had yeah, Summit Racing. I got some of this stuff from. And I've got the 651 rocker arm kits too, in case I go back to the original head in the future, which I doubt I ever will, but you know, I figure I better get parts while I can, because Father Time keeps going forward, and it's getting more. Had I known how hard it was to get parts for this 49, because the transmission is year specific for the early version of the 4L60E, and those are very rare right now. The condenser for the 94 is impossible to find now. AutoZone was the last one that carried it, and I should have bought it then. So I had a spare, but I didn't. And I still got body problems here that are serious. Rust above the windshield. I had it fixed once by a body shop, and it still leaks. They did a good job with the metal work with the patches, but they didn't do the right filler, so it still leaked. And of course, you know how hard it is to get the central multi-port fuel injection, CMFI, also called CPI by many people. The CPI, the spider, is very hard to get. GB remanufacturing in California only does a few a year, so what you have to do is wait for Rock Auto to say they're available, and they only do a few a year, and then you send in the core, assuming that this maxi injector is good. And if you damage these pins when you're taking the upper plenum on and off, it's bad. And finding the maxi injector is almost impossible, or is impossible these days. The other version, the TBI, throttle body injection, uses a different injector, different part number. Now that one's more available for some reason. I guess nobody ever ordered it. And we have a lot of problem with this Delphi, I think was the manufacturer fuel injection, in that the fuel tank pump stops performing as it should because people drive it to, they run out of gas and they burn up the pump for one reason or another. The pump fails, and it fails so often on these Astro vans that people cut holes so they can change the pump easier rather than trying to figure out why is the pump failing. And if you don't have 55 psi or more when the engine's running, you've got a pump that's not putting out enough pressure. And there's a test for checking the pressure that we can go into on another video. Matter of fact, I did already on another video. But anyway, that's all history. And you know, I've already done a lot of stuff on this van. Replace the tires, because you got to change the tires when they're 8 years or older, according to DOT, or if there's deterioration from sunlight, cracks. So I put tires on it all around. I did the brakes all around. I did the fuel injection complete. I've got actually a couple of CPI spiders in my storage. So, you know, but unfortunately now that I get to this level of the build, as they say, this van really doesn't meet my needs right now. I need like a G10 van, something capable of pulling a heavy trailer like a big boat all over. So I need a better, stronger van. Even with the V8, it wouldn't be as strong as I need, because I need to be able to haul fruit with this van and reliably all over the state, or a van. So don't try to sell me another van, please. I got people all over now reacting to my thinking I want to buy their project van. At my age, I don't need another project, thank you. But I also had trouble with the fuse block, and I fixed that. And I don't know, it's just one problem after another when you work on projects. And you know, everybody says, oh, I'll find an old van and fix it up. Well, what's your budget? You got 20 grand, 10 grand, 2 grand, you know, and how many years is it going to take you to get to where it's a driver again? Because if it's not on the road, you're not using it, you're just putting money into it. And that's fine if you're an enthusiast like me. And this video is not instructional, it's for fellow enthusiasts. And on a prior video I said how to adjust this door and get it to work, lock and unlock. That's a separate video, prior video. And you can post a comment if you need a link. But another problem people have is this rusts out. This lower bracket fails because people fail to keep rust preventative on it. Like this ACF 50 is my favorite if you're trying to prevent corrosive. It's made for the aircraft industry, for aluminum frame aircraft. ACF 50, it's $1 more than WD-40, $1 or $2 more, but I think it's a superior product for that purpose. And I always try to say, you know, have the right tool and the right materials for the job you're trying to do. Anyway, I'll get that other core number here sooner or later. I'll post it and I'll edit it into the video. And I'm trying to get better with my video editing. But again, my videos are crude and I don't have time to do a lot of editing. I can only shoot and keep working. So thumbs up if anything good. These are not instructional. I'm not a professional. I'm just an enthusiast, what they call a gearhead. I don't know what a gearhead is, but that's what they call somebody that likes to spin wrenches in their spare time. It's not professionally. I'm not a marine or automotive expert. I'm not. Anyway, I got to carry on. I got 2 rocker arm assemblies done now, and I got to do the other 4. Then I'll start working on installing the lower intake manifold onto the, and then, the upper intake. This is the upper intake here. And I'll try to go slow on that for people who need to know how to reassemble once they've taken it apart. Because even a picture and a video is really good for somebody. And I don't know why, but these Generation 1 vans are getting more and more popular. The Generation 2 Astro vans are easier to find parts for. A lot easier. So if you're considering getting an Astro van and doing some work on it, like you see me do, consider that. And certified used vehicles probably aren't a bad idea. So that's it. Thumbs up, people, if anything good, and thanks for watching. I'm going on to the next segment. January 16th, 2026, Dennis Seatsma, Dennis John Seatsma Productions. Do-it-yourself work is at your own risk. Death or injury can result. Let's talk about my research a little bit. Worked with Brian Simkus at Melling, and he's been great. Area code 517-787-8172. Brian Simkus. Great technical support person. Anyway, my research also shows that Summit Racing sells these things, and I found out the rocker arm stud for the metric head, for the newer head, is MRDS 948. That is a M10-1.50 and M10-10. Anyway, the RPO L35 VIN-W engine, and I have the studs, and the original head, like I said, was a different core number. It's the GM head. The new one is 140-99064 core that has the threaded studs, metric. And anyway, and all my research had to do a lot of talking, and this problem's been in effect since the early 90s, and Melling never corrected it. But the kits I researched were MRK 407, which did not apply. The ones that did apply to this engine, this RPO L35, was the MRK 651 for the older head, and MRK 652 for the newer head. And the rocker arms and rocker arm nuts are different because the earlier head, this core number 102-38181 core head, which is stamped right on it as you see it here, that was a 3/8 inch SAE stud, and those studs are replaceable, but it takes special equipment. And of course, like I said, it's getting harder and harder to find parts that are particular because the demand is just not there anymore. But the original S8 was 3/8 inch. Now I'm getting over a cold, so I'm going to cough a little bit here and there. And this video is for enthusiasts. So let's go on here in my research. And I can't tell the difference between the older rocker arms and but there is a difference in the stamping. And I can't tell you, I'm not a machine shop guy, but the machine shop guy, Ricky Performance in Panama City, showed me the differences, and I should have videotaped it. Anyway, the new head that's said to be better flow and more efficient and all that, and I'm not an expert, I just know what people tell me. This 140-99064 head has got the threaded metric studs, and rocker arm kits, yada yada yada. These are all notes to self, pretty much. But you can't even get started without the stud, which is the MRDS 948 metric stud. And then you need the rocker arm ball, which is MRM 1721, and rocker arm nut, which is MRM 1720. And you know, have to order the nuts differently. And I did all this research and notes to self. And like I said, if I pulled this chart off the Melling website, and it has errors regarding the differences in the head. So if Melling corrected this chart, then everybody that follows them, there's companies that do reference and cross-reference and research and all that for Napa, Rock Auto, O'Reilly's, Advanced Auto, AutoZone. They all come to this chart. So if you affected the chart, you could do better. Anyway, the engine, I think, I'm not sure the source where Powertrain Products got, but I think it was ATK, which is a major engine remanufacturer. So it's a great product. I'm very happy with the engine, but like I said, I messed up the head with the alternator bolts. So let's talk about what comes in the kit. I told you about the stud. You have to order that separately. And the head, the newer head, comes without studs. So you do your homework. Anyway, the MRK 652 kit comes like this, with a rocker arm and a rocker arm ball and a 3/8 inch SAE nut. And so you need the metric nut to go to that stud. So I'm going to pause the camera for a minute while I take this out of the package. And now that it's out of the package, you see this has to be for an M10 stud, this rocker arm ball. And this is the correct rocker arm for the new head. So this is the correct ball, but this nut is not correct. It's not even a rocker arm nut. It may work on the older head, I'm not sure, but it doesn't even look like 3/8 inch national fine to me. So anyway, let's start assembling this. I'm trying to get enough light in here to show you, but the rocker arm, of course, goes onto the stud, and okay, like so. Okay, and then the washer, which, like I said, this has to be for an M10. This rocker, you know, I'm not an expert on all this. I just know what they told me. Anyway, this fits nicely over the M10 stud, and now I need the nut. Now, the nut is a special nut for rocker arm, so we'll go to that next. Hang on a second. So anyway, Melling MRM 1720, and I don't expect everybody to recall stock that's in the field from all the different auto parts store to change this nut to the metric num, the MRM. I don't expect that, but I would expect it to happen at least at Melling for anything left in stock, or at Summit Racing, you know, the major where you go for this stuff, because this is kind of specialty. You know, when you swap a head, you reuse these parts usually. You don't always replace it, but this is the special M10-1.0 nut, and this is a super tight fit, and getting it started on the threads, because on this side of the nut it's not compacted, but on the other side of the nut it is, so it's hard to start. You can't, be careful you don't cross thread it. And again, this is a video for enthusiasts, and what you do with the old SAE nut is up to you, because it's not applicable to this rocker arm situation. You might use this somewhere else on the vehicle where it takes an SAE nut, but I can't tell you where. I haven't got that far yet. Again, this is a video, not how-to or instructional. This is just for enthusiasts, just for entertainment and information. Stand by while I try to put this. Oh, make sure you don't drop it down into the engine. You might want to put some rags in there. I'm not going to. And this takes a shallow 15mm socket to put on this nut. And you see I stuffed a little paper towel in here so I can put the nut on from the other side, or for this side. Just give me a minute here. I gotta pause the camera. Okay. I've ordered, you see how nicely that holds it there. And I've ordered some shallow 15mm sockets, 3/8 drive. So now I'm going to apply this, and I can't hold the camera and do it, and I don't want to drop it into the engine. So please forgive me. I got to pause the camera and then we'll come back to it. Okay, I've got it started. Now you got to be real careful not to cross thread it. And I have actually ordered an M10 tap and die, an M10-1.0, but been a few months since I worked on this. October 2025 is when that's why there's some surface rust here. But I did run the engine after I changed the oil, got rid of the milky oil. But you're going to start out, and this feels tight because it has to be a tight, so it doesn't, there's no wash or anything to prevent it. You know, the nature of the beast is it has to be really tight on that shaft. So once I get it started, I need something more substantial, like this tool here, this 15mm impact socket, and then crank it down. Now before I start the engine, I'm going to loosen these enough so I can detect and turn it through by hand so I don't bend a push rod. Now I don't know if this is even going to work because this head is the old style head. This is the new style head. They're said to be interchangeable, and this one is used in marine engines as well, this core number. And I asked Powertrain Products to send me the same core number, and I gave them the ATK source code, and they didn't. They sent me what they wanted to. So if it doesn't work, it's on them. But I still have to put the head on and off. It's, I don't know, maybe $50, $100 in parts for the gaskets, and the mechanic's time is, of course, I can't charge them for that because I'm the installer. But I did buy the goof-proof policy when I bought this engine. Was extra, a couple of $100. Any mistakes the installer makes, they'll cover it. And they even offered to send me another engine when I told them the problem I ran into with the head. And I said, no, changing the engine's more work than replacing the head. And I replaced the head in October of 2025. I only have so much time a year to work on this, and that's why it's dragging on year after year. I just don't have time to work on this project like I'd like to. I have other obligations that demand my time and my executive focus, as it said. And I don't know what I'm going to do about the bodywork. And I would hate to tell you what I've spent on this project so far, just since 2017, because I did run through the body shop once. Looked beautiful, but still leaked. And they didn't paint on the inside due to a communication error between myself and the body shop manager. You know, there was a line. I speak Spanish, but my Spanish is not that good. So anyway, I don't know. I want to get this back to being a runner this week, because I have very limited time and I won't be able to work on it again for a long time. So I'm going to tighten up this nut. Hopefully it's not cross-threaded. You're going to feel a lot of pushback because it is a super tight fit intentionally for a rocker arm nut. And I'm not an expert on this. I'm just an enthusiast, and this is for entertainment, not how to. But if it shows you how to put this back together from this level, and on prior videos that I did in October, I showed you the head, but I wanted to put it up as a single video from taking the head off, taking the head off, you know, I wanted to put all this together in like a 2-hour video instead of posting it in segments. But sometimes for my subscribers, I do things in segments and do a little at a time, and then promise to come back and make it into a full production later. Of course, later never comes because I'm so busy working. So, thanks for watching. Thumbs up, buddies, if anything interesting here. Okay, that went well, and so I got to do the rest of them. But the problem is, if you tighten these down dirt tight and then just try to start it, you're going to bend a push rod, and then you got to buy another one. So, and before I start it, I'll probably check all the push rods, make sure none of them are bent. But it took Powertrain Products a long time to get me this head, like almost a year. And had I bought it myself from Summit, or some of the others, it would have been $300, and I would have had a lot sooner. And I guess I might have done that, but I was trying to do this like any other installer would, working with Powertrain Products. And I bought the extra warranty on here. They offer up to a 7-year warranty if you pay extra. But I think this engine's done by ATK, and if I have any more problems, we'll just swap the engine again, because it's probably easier to get me another completely assembled engine like this than it is to try to get bits and pieces like I'm having to do. And another Astro van guy up in Tallahassee, he's got a 97. He wants me to help him change a timing chain on it. I've got the puller and the installer for the harmonic balancer, and I'm going to try to find time to do that as I go through Tallahassee. So and I need to get to more salvage yards in Georgia and Alabama, because this condenser, not the radiator was hard enough to get, but the condenser is specific because it has connections on the passenger side and a connection on the driver's side. And the condenser is specific to 1994, 1 year only, and they're not available anymore unless you get one from a salvage yard, and it's not damaged, you know, because you can damage them. I found that the threads stick, because I tried to get this apart on mine, and I ended up breaking the tube from here, from the top of the connection here down to the where it goes to the passenger side of the condenser. Now, I looked at a salvage yard last week, and it looked like the 95 condenser, 1995, might be able to be plumbed by an expert, an AC shop, and work. But I don't have those crimp tools, and I'm not an expert on doing the hard lines for. There's some people that make custom hard lines, but it's an artisan skill. It's a real talent, and you have to have be able to weld the tubing, or at least heat it up and blow some gas through the proper gas to keep the pipe open while you're welding it. And I also replaced the transmission lines to the cooler, and I had to order like 6 different radiators before I found a good one. They all came in damaged, and all damaged at the same spot, and I finally got a good one from Napa, and the one from Amazon didn't work at all. It wasn't even close. Well, it was close, but you had to use adapters, and I'm trying to go back to you know, as close as I can to OEM. And you see the corrosion I got here. Sooner or later this is going to rot through on my driver's side window, so I may need to do some high school welding and high school body work myself. I've took auto body at Robert Morgan Votech here in Miami years ago, but again, I don't have the welding equipment. My biggest problem is finding time to do these things, but I'm trying to find time to do the video so that other enthusiasts can see the challenges of trying to bring one of these old girls back to road warrior status without being super pretty. You know, I may have to just leave the rust because I can't find a body shop. I've tried and tried. They all want so much money, so you got to find somebody that works out of their house, or another enthusiast that's willing to work with you to learn how to do this for their Astro vans. And I'll collaborate with other enthusiasts. I like to do it, and you know, I could probably manage anything in Florida or Georgia or Alabama easily, just to help a fellow enthusiast, or for them to help me find parts, and you know, go into salvage yards to look for stuff for me. And I don't want a whole van. No, I don't need another, because once you have a whole vehicle, you got to deal with code enforcement or a place to keep it, or you know, it becomes a problem. So I want to leave the problems in the salvage yard and find either new old stock, or anyway, I still need parts, and this rust is still a problem. I stopped the leaking by using that flex tape, which the company told me not to do it, but I did it anyway because I needed to stop the rain from coming in here and rotting out everything else. So, and you know, eventually I may have to sell this at a loss, but I've owned it since new, and I really like it because it's got dual air. And if I can get, you know, if I haven't damaged the condenser taking the engine in and out, because I did have to get one side loose, and I did a little twisting on the line, so and I couldn't break it loose on the driver's side. So all these challenges you run into when you try to do this on an older vehicle, you know. So anyway, thumbs up, people. I may not put this on the internet for months, because I really want to get it running, and I want to do like a 2-hour video from pulling the head and putting it back on, and not as instructional, just entertainment and information, like what I'm telling you with problems I ran into getting these bits and pieces to do the rocker arms. I thought I'd have this thing running by now until I ran into this. Thanks for watching. Okay, I can't get the nut on this stud to start, and I've added a 4-inch extension so I can make sure I'm at the same angle as the stud coming out of the head. So I may have to wait on that one until I can get the tap and die for M10 1.0, which is a super fine thread. The M10 threads are normally 1.50 for coarse and 1.25 for fine, and of course 1.0 is even more fine, and very unusual for them to go that many threads per inch. But I can't get that one started, and I had a problem with the one all the way in the front too. It didn't want to start, and you don't want to cross thread these. Now the studs themselves are replaceable, and I used some Permatex blue thread locker on the don't use red. If you use red, it's in there forever unless you use heat to get it out. So, but Permatex blue is not so bad, and I might have not even needed to do that, but I decided I wanted to and take the risk. I don't think I'll ever be taking this apart again anyway, but if I have to replace a stud, I can. Now, I did go into my ditty bag here, and of course there's the MRK 652 and the nut, the MRN 1720, and then Here I found the stud, which is MRDS 948 Melling. MRDS 948. Oh, what a pain. Oh, the pain. Oh, the pain. That actor was a trip and Lost in Space. So, I'm going to move on to, because, you know, I can reassemble this engine and then return to this, but I really want to get this side done before I move on to expending my gaskets and putting it all together and trying to get it running. And like I said, I need the right length stud or bolt, which is, it was just slightly less than 4 inches on the GM bolt for the alternator bracket, and those brackets have an history of breaking off and throwing the alternator into the works at road speed. So some people use studs instead of bolts, but the GM bolt is no longer available, so you have to use a bolt and then washer it up to make the bracket tight, and I failed to do that, which is why they broke off the first time I drove it on the street. And the same thing with these 3/8 National Course bolts on the exhaust. They're a weird length, so you got to make that fastidiously, and it's a good idea to use new bolts if you can. So I'm going to move on to the next one, and this one here I left the stud out until I figured all this engineering out and got it right. So, like I said, thanks to Ricky for telling me about the MRDS-948. Thanks to Brian Simkus and the good people at Summit. Now, I could have sent some of these parts back, but I decided to keep them for other enthusiasts. I'll put them on eBay or something, or I'll just keep them. And there is a difference in the rocker arms, but I can't tell the difference without talking to the people at Ricky's Speed Shop, or Ricky's Performance, I should. They're next to the Napa store there on US 98 in Panama City. Real nice people at that machine shop. And I've told them about this project, and they're too busy working to watch video, but they are a bit intrigued, you know, because they keep helping me with technical information. You know, enthusiast to enthusiast. Thanks for watching. Okay, I'm working on this one now, and I've skipped that one. I can't get it started on this one either, and I'm not going to blame the studs, because I think the studs are okay. It's just, I think these rocker arm nuts are just machined so tight spec that you can't start it. So I may have to wait for the tap and die to arrive so I can wallow out this nut a little bit and at least get one, because I tried starting it with my fingers, you know, and making sure it's not cross-threaded, and you just can't turn it and have it set on there right. So I had to use this shallow socket, 15 millimeter, and try to hold it at the same angle as the stud. And there's a feel to it, a technique. You can feel it when it starts, and it's good, but it started several times on both these studs, and then it came off within, I don't know, 1/16 of a turn. So it's real fiddly. So pack your patience, take your time. You know, Rome was not built in a day. If you're working as an hourly mechanic, though, it would be bad. So this is where machine shops get involved for people that can't get things to fit because the specs are so tight. So Melling, if you're listening, Brian Simkus, although like Brian, you know, Brian's limited by what corporate will do when told of a situation, if they're told. And I've worked with a lot of engineers that just didn't want to swim upstream, and they didn't tell management when they found something like this with the SAE mismatch on this MRK 652. It's got the wrong nut. It needs, you know, you need the stud, the MRDS 948, or go to the old head that has Preston studs, and problem solved. And I wanted the old head. I told Powertrain Products, don't send me a different core number, but you know, they were it was their decision to send me this head. And think Powertrain Products is great. It's just I'm running into these problems. So thanks for watching. Okay, January 16th, 2026, Dennis Sietsma. Okay, my starter, my tap arrived, tap and die, the M10-1.0. Unfortunately, these Melling rocker arm nuts are not machined properly, and one or two worked, and they just don't want to start. So I had to use the tap, and it needs to be a starter tap, not a bottom tap, to do the first turn or turn and a half on the nut facing the head. Otherwise they won't start. Now unfortunately, one of these nuts I did from the wrong side. I did it from the valve cover part of the nut, and so I'm gonna have to order some new nuts. These what I told you, these, yeah, like I said, I ain't got enough of them. The MRM 1720 nut. Need to order a few more of those. I should have ordered more when I ordered them, but I wasn't sure if they're going to fit or not. And this is not a showstopper, because even though I can't finish this last one, and the other one is not going to stay well enough because I ran this tap through it, I can go on to do the lower plenum and the up, you know, I could do the rest of it and then return back to this part as soon as I get more of these nuts that are hopefully properly machined. Anyway, Melling, I know you might be watching. I'm just telling you what I found, okay? What, from my personal experience trying to do this job, and this is not the best way to do it. This is the way Dennis does it. Dennis Sietsma, Homestead, Florida, USA. Dennis John Sietsma production. Thanks for watching. Okay, lucky me, I do have extra MRM 1720 nuts. So, like I say, I take one of these and I only do like the first turn or turn and a half with the tap while holding the nut securely. And once I get that first turn, I can then start it on the stud properly. So, live and learn. I hope this information is useful to somebody either now or sometime in the future. Thanks for watching. January 16th, 2026. January 26, 2026, 5:15 p.m. Eastern Time. This is a documentary about my 1994 Chevy Astro van that I've owned since new. I'm getting ready to put in the last head stud, this metric Melling MRDS-948, and I'm going to put a little thread locker blue on that, and that's be the last stud I need to put in with an 18 millimeter deep well socket. Now this would have been a showstopper on trying to get those nuts on there the way they were machined. They just did not want to start, so I had to go to use a tap, an M10-1.0 tap. And my videos are intended, it's a documentary, not a how-to or instructional. It's intended to be entertainment for or information for fellow Astro van enthusiasts or 4.3 liter V6. Gonna do it off camera and get this last bolt in, head rocker arm bolt, And I don't know who else makes these for this head except Melling. I think they're you know, and if they do make it, they go by this chart that is wrong. You know, if somebody else for this head, this 14099064 casting, and I didn't understand all this when they first started talking to me about heads and stuff. They said, oh, I got to get the number, and the original number was the 102.38181 from the original head. And like I said, the Melling chart, if it was accurate from the get-go, and it's not, it's got errors in this rocker arm component chart from Melling. It is accurate for a lot of it on here, but like the MRK 652 is right there. It does show the correct stud and the correct ball / pivot fulcrum, but the nut is the wrong nut. It should be the one I said earlier, the MRM 1720 nut is what should be for this rocker arm kit. This MRK 652. So let me get at it and pause the camera for a minute. Okay, got that stud installed. And don't ever use the red. The red version of this is like maximum strength. This is medium strength. And this stuff dries pretty quick, and despite being called medium, it is also got a heck of a grip. A lot more than you think it would have for medium strength. And I don't know what the color is for the minimum strength. Maybe they don't have one. Anyway, next I'll put the nut on this stud, and I'll do that off camera. I'll put this rocker arm together. I don't know what the difference is between the MRK 651 and the MRK 652 rocker arm, but they look identical. This is the 652, which is correct for this application, and the rocker arm ball is for 10 millimeter stud. I got another kit here that I bought from Summit, just on a lark, and this is for like an SAE 3/8 stud. This Summit kit, SUM G is in golf 6803 kilo, and I got all these MRK 6051 kits that I can, and also some nuts and bolts from that company. But this is the rocker arm from the 651, and I don't want to mix these up, but you know, tell me the difference, because I can't tell any difference between, but they say there is, so, but it's a minuscule difference, so don't mix them up. And of course this SAE won't fit the diameter of the M10. It's the difference between 3/8 and 10 millimeters is minute, but makes a big difference if you mix them up. I'm gonna pause the camera again. And what I'm trying to say or illustrate or share, however you want to say it, this is the SAE, and of course it doesn't fit. It's too small to fit on the 10 millimeter stud. But if you have the correct one from the MRK 652 kit for 10 millimeter It goes on nicely, as it should. And the difference is tiny between the two. But, you know, one will work and the other one won't. So, off camera again, we'll mess around with the nut. I have to, like the first turn, I have to use this tap, this M10-1-0, and I got the proper holder here for the tap for hand. I forget where I got that on the internet somewhere, but I got a whole set of the, I'll show that to you in a minute. And these are real handy to have this tap driver, this black thing here. Let me go off camera for a minute. Okay, here's the nut again. I'm spending a lot of time on this because I really want to explain this well. This is the Melling MRM 1720 nut. And the rounded end, that's the business end. That's the one that's got the locking threads on it. But they obviously never tested these at the factory with the stud, because you cannot get it on real easy. It's like, I don't know. I don't know how to say this because I'm not a machine shop person, but it's obvious they never tried to make that nut with the MRDS-948 stud at the factory, or they would have noticed the problem. But here's the tap, and what I have to do is take this, the round end, this end here is not peened very much, the flat side of the nut. It's not all that, it doesn't have anything there to lock the threads. It's on this end, so this end is the one that won't start, so I have to do like the first turn and clean that up so the nut will start. And to hold the other end, I got this arrangement here. I'll try to hold that steady for a minute, and that's a 15mm. So I got to do this off camera because I can't hold the camera and do this too, and I'm sorry for the bad video work, but doing the best I can working alone and an amateur. Sorry for the quality. So when I'm doing this, you got to make sure it's not cross-threaded, and only make it like one turn, because you don't want to take all of that out, just the first click or two, and you can feel it go click, click, click as you turn it and overcome the whatever is the burr that won't allow that to start. So I hope I'm explaining this properly to a mass audience. And I use video because, you know, one picture's worth 1,000 words. And of course my shaky camera work doesn't help. But I'm doing the best I can for my age. I'm having more and more difficulty holding my hand still. Okay, she starts really nice when you've done what I just said for the first turn, and it starts nice. Now this is a 15mm to start. It was an 18mm for the stud, 15mm for the nut. And like I said, I'm not going to do all these down dirt tight. Now what caused my other engine, and it was a really nice engine, the rings were good, and even at 200,000, you know, I did oil changes and filter with quality oil every 3,000 miles, and I've owned it since new, and the block was pristine, but I spun a bearing on number 6 because I didn't have enough lubrication, and I'm not sure why, except I had a hole, a porosity in the valve cover, and I'll show that to you. I'm not going to dig through it right now, it's almost sunset, but it had a porosity on the passenger side valve cover right in the back, and it never occurred to me that that could cause lack of oil flow and destruction of the engine with the spinning the number 6 bearing at the crankshaft and connecting rod. No idea, Maybe one of you people in the audience can explain it to me. Post a comment, please, if you know why. And it was causing the engine to seek, because apparently that bearing was seizing up from time to time. And, you know, everything I did to try to get rid of that engine seeking and idle didn't work, of course, because I hadn't found the source of the problem, which was it was binding up at the bearing on the lower. But the engine was so pristine, I hated to send it back, but I figured getting a remanufactured engine from a quality company like Powertrain Products and, you know, whoever their source is, I think it's ATK, or I don't know if I got the letters right, but it's 3 letters, big company that remanufactures engine and has forever. Those people, I thought, did it better than the local machine shop. And I had trouble. This engine came in a pod, and the guy delivered it with a forklift right here to the back of the farm from the street, which was like a 300 foot from the front gate to the back of the property, with an electric forklift, and couldn't have been nicer. Anyway, it came in a pod, as opposed to me hauling this up to Miami, you know, in a U-Haul, and getting it up and then back to the machine shop in rental fees for the U-Haul and gas and time and all that. So I just thought getting a remanufactured engine was more efficient, and it was a little pricier than, you know, having a local machine shop do it. But I plan to keep this van a long time, even at my advanced stage. I'd like to keep it just because I like it, you know. And there's a lot of value when you like a vehicle, and this is a very practical vehicle, I think. The van's a very practical thing, but like I said, getting parts for it is getting tough. So probably this is going to be all for today on the 16th. We'll start again tomorrow. I'll proceed next with the lower intake manifold to put that on after I clean up the surface rust, and then I'll do the, you know, I will proceed towards getting this engine running again. So audience, thumbs up, anything good. I appreciate you watching my videos, and subscribe if you like. If my content is not your cup of tea, you can unsubscribe. And I appreciate all my subscribers. Thank you. And the views are way up on this channel. Apparently people like what I'm doing from the comments, both on Facebook and on YouTube. They seem to like the content, if for entertainment, if nothing else. So thanks for watching. We'll continue as soon as we can.